following podcast may contain some adult language. You've been warned.
Welcome to Finding the Narrative, the Genesys RPG Podcast. This is a show dedicated to the Genesys Role Playing System, created by Fantasy Flight Games and produced by Edge Studios. A show in which we, your hosts, discuss all things Genesys from both a player's and a GM's perspective. I am Tony Fanning, and with me, as always, are my good friends and co-hosts, Chris Holmes and Stefan Dragonspawn. Homie, how you doing?
Oh man, I'm doing great. My Vikings finally won this year. They almost lost at the very end of the game today, like they did last week. And earlier in the week, it's always kind of bad when you kill two player characters right after the same night as session 0. But it happened. I felt bad. I don't anymore. They made a couple of really cool characters to replace them, but yeah, which could kind of dovetail into, I wish I had guidelines like this that we might be going over in tonight's show, which we'll get into in a little bit. So I've been doing pretty good. Stefan, how you, bud?
I'm pretty good as well. Taking advantage of the nice weather that we had up here. Got a second batch of raspberries in our garden. Gaming-wise, well, it's starting to get a bit more active. I've got gaming with one of our listeners of the show, Darren West, who's invited me in his game. So played in one session already a couple of weeks ago. That was really awesome with his group of friends. So I'm rolling dice virtually.
Excellent. When are you going to join us on Star Wars?
Well, I'm hoping this Thursday, if no one else cancels, or if Tony does still to go ahead, even if one guy decides not to show up, if he can finally put his big boy pants in game anyway. Tony, how are you doing?
Hey, it's not me. It's a very role play heavy campaign. So when one character's gone, it don't make sense.
Yeah, no, I understand.
They don't get
Busting
stolen
balls,
by the drow like you can in D&D. They just got kidnapped by drow. Okay,
that's
they'll
right.
be back next session, hopefully.
Interdimensional closets, that's what you need.
Transdimensional pants? I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
No, closet. That way they can come out of it.
But no, I'm doing pretty good. Been playing a butt ton of Star Wars The Old Republic online again. Our good friend Jamie decided to ask if we'd ever played. Boop! Next thing I know, it's me, my son, Sean, Chris, and Jamie. We've got a guild. We're freaking buying a capital ship. We're
gonna invade a planet sometime, and you know what? Sleep is just a suggestion.
You can sleep when you're dead.
You can sleep when you're dead. Well done.
I have been markedly more tired as of late.
Oh my gosh. I've been crabbier.
As they say on the Comedy Network, time well wasted.
Exactly. But other than that, I've been doing pretty good.
Awesome.
Still have a ton of games going on. I GM like 5 of them.
Lots of gaming going on.
I still get to put my player pants on once a week, though, with Jamie's D&D game. So it's all good.
Yeah, that'll be good. That's good.
But this show, we decided we were going to jump back into the Expanded Player's Guide, and we were going to talk about the Adversary power level system, because I think there's people out there that haven't picked up the Expanded Player's Guide. And as a GM, this particular tool alone will make the Expanded Player's Guide something worth putting on your radar to pick up. Even if you only get it in PDF.
Oh yeah. I mean the steps to create adversaries, how they've gone into it in more detail here, because they did have how to do adversaries in the core rule book, but they have some really nice tables to quickly make adversaries, which we're going to do tonight.
Yeah. So tonight's episode number 67, That is the correct episode number. I researched it this time. And the episode name is His Power Level. It's over 9,000!
No! Awesome.
And that was for my oldest son, the big Dragon Ball Z fan.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
As they spent half an episode powering up.
Half an episode?
Or working up a big turd. I don't know.
Is it half an episode or half of a season? Getting ready to attack.
I don't know, but sometimes I went to the bathroom during a commercial break and they're still powering up when I get back. So
wow.
It's almost at 9,000. Oh, no, that last percentage, 8,999. Come on. 8,000.
If I stood in one place and grunted as long as they did on that show, I'd have an aneurysm. I'm just saying.
Yep, I hear you.
Yeah.
But yeah, my oldest boy, Zach, he absolutely loved that show. He's a big DBZ fan. And so I'm sure he'll appreciate that.
Well, there you go.
I had a friend who was a big, I had a friend who was a big fan as well, and she met some of the voice actors that did some of the characters within convention, and some of them didn't know what the story was about in Dragon Ball Z. They actually asked the fans, "What is it about?" A lot of times, all we're doing is noises.
There's no continuity. I don't know what I'm grunting for.
What's my motivation?
Just continue to grunt. We'll edit it in later.
That's it. Have these beans in the meantime.
Nice.
So why don't we jump into it and move on to the next segment? Stefan's going to boost somebody's signal.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, hey, welcome to Boosting the Signal. This is where Stefan shares all the Genesys news to get you all bothered out there. Fresh off the wire, and some news. Going to review a couple products here. You okay there, Tony?
I was beatboxing for you.
Oh,
sweet. And I'm going to turn it over to Stefan. Go ahead.
All right. Well, thank you for that nice intro and the beatbox, Tony. So to get our listeners all excited, I've got a few little bits to tease you with. We've got 2 items from our very, very generous and productive Genesys fan, Chris Markham.
What? He hasn't done anything.
He's at it again. Yes, he's at it again.
Gosh.
Chris.
He's a machine.
So a little while ago, I know. A little while ago, he put out a source book for the Rue Steps, the residents, called The Unrelenting Uthuk, which I like that.
Cool.
The image on the cover is really cool too. So yeah, and it gives GMs more foes to throw at their PCs, as well as some details on the very cruel and rugged life of Uthuk Ilan. As well as some demon magics, the infernals, etc. And he even includes adversary cards, which he's done with quite a few of his other products as well. And on the flip side, to flip the script a little bit, like he says, there are options to play Uthuk characters, so that you can learn about that, or become one of the fearless berserkers, a ferocious blood harvester, etc., or Viper Legion Archer. That's a cool name. Or fly through the air as a Doom Glider.
All right, evil campaign, here we come.
Exactly. All of that.
I haven't run one of those in a long time. I think it'd be fun to do one in Terranaught.
Yeah, and I read a little bit about it, and he actually works out how to, if you want a mechanic, how to have a character's summon something other than the magic actions, creating a ritual. So a bit of rules if a GM wants that, instead of narratively waving. A few little breakdowns of how to do that. So
the player's ritual can be interrupted by the GM's adventuring party that comes in right at the speed of plot. Right.
Exactly. So
awesome.
It takes time into consideration, the number of casters, etc., blood sacrifices. They all contribute to making the difficulty sometimes a little lower, or modifying the mechanics.
Well, us on the FTN Podcast do not recommend LARPing.
No.
Rituals. Just to let you all know.
No. Just use tomato juice, okay? And all of that for only $250.
Nice.
So, and he's not done. Just more recently, he also came out with another supplement called Cities of Splendor, which focuses on the various free cities of Manara. And he was inspired by another Genesys fan, Kyle Scarp, who did the guide to New Angeles. So he used that as a bit of a template. He asked Kyle if he could, and said, yes, sure, why not?
Nice.
So that includes cost of living, rarity modifiers, and a few little details that could be neat story hooks for each of those cities. Mm-hmm. You can check our previous show notes for details on the New Angeles guide. So
kudos. Yeah, kudos to you, to Chris and Kyle there for collaborating a bit and getting like a format of some of these things, these extra books lined up, because it's always good for like people to kind of go through and kind of have the same like layout. It's similar, so you could find stuff easier. That's pretty cool. Well done.
And even
guys.
then, it's good that they help each other out. One inspires the other. It's like, I'll do one for Cities of Manara. Why not?
Mm-hmm. And Manara, that's like the world. Tiernoth was just that one little area, right?
Right, exactly.
Okay,
so the cities of Tiernoth. And then finally, we've got Roy Altman, who has his own website called RPG Narco. He put out the Genesys Foundry graphic design templates for covers. So you actually have templates if you want to produce a cover for whatever supplement you want and put it up in the Foundry. And his templates are not just like the generic Genesys core book. There's one that looks very much like Realms of Tiernoth. One is the Android. The other one, of course, is the Keyforge. So he's got one for each of the types of official books that are out so far. So the 3 settings and the core book.
Cool.
And that's just pay what you want. So you get different formats that allow you to open it up and modify it in different programs. And he's tried to make it as friendly, user-friendly as possible.
Which means it's still above my pay grade.
But still, if not, like he says, not everyone knows about how to use like InDesign. So he's got a few other little things you can use because most people don't have InDesign, but you can use it in different other programs. So link again in the show notes, and that's pay what you want. So that's it for boosting the signal. A few little items. I hope that helps both Chris and Roy boost their signal and get a bit more exposure and a bit more loonies. Actually, in the U.S., it would be just dollars in your pockets.
All right. Excellent.
I'll be right behind you.
Will you then? Yes, I did. I have already started recording, Stefan, and everybody's going to know that you are right behind me as we talk about now the books of Genesys. All right, well done. Nice. There you go. So we're going to go over adversary power levels. We're going to go over the adversary creation. Starting on the Expanded Player's Guide, page 74. Adversaries. It's what makes a campaign go round, right? Part of encounters, all that kind of stuff.
Definitely an important part.
Mm-hmm. So first thing I want to mention is the introduction to the adversary power level profile and a description of it, which appears on page 5 of the Expanded Player's Guide in a little sidebar. And it says, as you read through this book, you'll notice that all of the adversary profiles have these symbols with numbers. on the name of the adversary. And since this came out, they've also done that in Keyforge.
Yes.
These are adversary power levels. The first, the fist, indicates the adversary's combat power level. The head with the circle is the adversary's social power level, and the diamond shape is the adversary's general power level. These power levels are a measure of how capable the adversary is, and it is further explained in more detail later on in the book. So I just wanted to bring that up because we're going to be talking about the 3 different levels, and you're going to see those symbols. And for those who don't have, or who have old copies of the core rulebooks, Shadow of the Beanstalk and Terranoth, you can go online to the Genesys main page on Fantasy Flight Games, and they have their errata, and in there they have added the power levels to all of the adversaries that are previously printed, including all those that just only showed up in the adversary cards, and all the ones that came in those 3 original books.
Yes. Yeah, that's good. Yep, right at the very back of that errata.
Yep.
Cool.
So let's kick this off. Who wants to start?
Well,
You can.
I could start. I'll start it off. I started off. So we have, there is a quickly construction and adversary is where we're at. There are multiple steps, depending on whether you have the printed book or the PDF. You may have 7 steps or 6, just to let you know. Where we're going to be talking about where you're picking an adversary type, the characteristics, figure out their the soak, defense, strain, skills, talents, special abilities, and then going into the equipment and such. So as Tony mentioned, the first thing here was you have the different power levels for these. As we're going through these steps, we're going to go, and then before you create your adversary, you want to decide what role are they going to play. Ask yourself, what role are they going to play in your game? Are they going to be an ally? Are they going to be an obstacle? Are they intended to be a social challenge or a combat challenge? Or are they going to tap into those generic resources, the generic skills that the players have, like, disabling traps or slicing into computers, those kinds of things. So ask yourself those questions before you start creating an adversary.
So we're going to create some, right? We're going to do that while we're doing this, right?
I believe so. Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to start by saying that I wanted to make a nemesis.
You feel free. You make your nemesis.
I want this to be
Dibs on the nemesis. You.
A big Silhouette 2 monster.
Cool.
All right.
So we're thinking combat focused. Definitely, if it's a monster, you're not gonna want to have a bunch of social abilities.
That's true.
There's no negotiating with death.
No. It just wants to rip your face off.
That's right. And you're gonna take notes as to what you selected, right? We're all gonna take our own notes. Okay, cool. Stefan, what do you want to pick? What are you gonna pick?
Well, I'm going to pick a minion, and instead of inventing it whole cloth, as some of our listeners know, I've already been working on adapting Dragonstar, which is basically Dungeons and Dragons in space, but to Genesys. So some creatures that are iconic to D&D need to be maybe converted or adapted. So I thought the blood-sucking little annoying sturge, the big mosquito bat-like hybrid.
I freaking hate those things.
Yeah. GMs love them, players hate them.
Oh, I know.
had a character die because he fell into a sturge nest.
There we go. So,
oh my gosh, that's great.
I've got the stats for them roughly.
Okay, we could kind of compare what they've got
and make sort of power level.
I'd be curious to see how close like these arrays are, and the skill sets, how close they would be to kind of what you have there. Well, that leaves a rival for me. And as I was reading this earlier today, I'm thinking a gunslinger that we might run into in the Tales of the Epsilon Eclipse if we happen to go into some sort of weird Wild West, area, maybe. Cool. So that's what we'll do. Probably maybe an unnamed gunslinger, but somebody who will fill that role. Definitely combat.
Someone you'd see walk into a tavern. Mm-hmm. Even a tavern that travels through space and time.
Exactly, and orders himself an Epsilon Eclipse. Epsilon Sour. My fault. Epsilon Sour. All right, so
it's okay.
What do we want to? So we want to do a round robin here since we have 6 steps. Who wants to kick this out? Well, we basically just talked about the adversary types. Minions, rivals, nemesis. So you want to decide on that.
There's part of that decision process.
There is.
Why don't we go individually into what makes each one of those specific?
Sure. Go ahead. Sure. So the first one we have is a minion. Go ahead there, Stefan, since you picked a minion.
Yeah, so that's it. So minions. Minions are the adversaries who usually are fairly weak individually, but can be very dangerous opponents when they're grouped together. So the adversary is probably a minion if they don't have a name. They're just faceless. They rely on strength of numbers, and they act basically as faceless support for the named characters. So think of all your bad guy movies, bad movies with bad guys that have hordes of guys. Mm-hmm. The typical one, of course, being Star Wars. Your guys in white armor.
Mm-hmm. You know what popped in my head the first time? The Crazy 88s from Kill Bill.
Right? Yeah.
Those would be your minions, right? At the end there.
Definitely.
Yeah.
As Pearson would like to call them, they're your shitnecks.
Yes, the shitnecks. That's right. Now, somebody who could potentially lead these shitnecks into battle, a group of them maybe, would be your rival level of adversary. And I do like how they put like a term in here that I've used when I was writing simulations for the military. They act as a force multiplier. You've probably heard that one too, Tony, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
Before? Mm-hmm. To other adversaries. I mean, they are competent alone, and basically in a single area of focus, which my gunslinger will be pew 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 pew. And like I said, they'll lead or assist minions in the encounter, and they can challenge. They could give a challenge to one PC, kind of a head-on-head engagement, which kind of makes going out in the middle of the street and doing a fancy duel, like we were doing in Star Wars too. Jamie had his character doing that, so.
But it wouldn't hurt to have, you could also flesh out some ruffians that'd be like his gang,
You know it. Well, that's right. Yeah. So then what?
Cool. So then nemesis. Nemesis are important adversaries. Often have major obstacles in a campaign. A nemesis is at least the equal to a PC, and maybe equal to the entire group. Maybe a threat for the entire group.
Cool.
The adversary is probably a nemesis if they have they challenge a group of PCs in an encounter. They have more than one area of expertise. They have a unique name that players will actually remember and probably learn to hate.
Oh yeah.
These are your recurring villains. An established backstory. And nemesis always have an established backstory.
Cool.
Perhaps even their own character arc in the story itself. And they can support multiple rivals and minion groups.
Cool. All right. Well, hey, that's our step 1.
So step 2?
Yeah. I'll take this one only because I do have a comment and a typo I believe that they do have in this chart that they did not fix in the errata. Table 2-1, characteristic arrays, where they have like the name of a creature, small creature or person, the stealthy, huge, social person. Yeah. The one I'm looking at, though, And they have a list of characteristics. Then they have the effect this array would have on those power levels, the combat, social, and general. And then they give examples of, what they would. Now, I pretty much went down to a cunning foe. Now, you guys tell me, in this array, what is wrong with this picture for a cunning foe? Brawn 2, Agility 4, Intellect 4, Cunning 2, Willpower 2, Presence 2. What's wrong with that picture?
Yeah.
Cunning and intellect should be switched.
Swapped? Yes, they should be, everybody. And that's what I'll be doing. And that's the array I'm going to pick for my guy. Yeah.
And associated with that, I just noticed that if you look at the Savant, also has the same problem, but in reverse. You'd think a Savant would be, they say a scholar, a researcher, a surgeon, and they give it intellect 2 and a cunning of 5.
I did not see that, Stefan. Well done.
So those two, maybe those two profiles are switched.
Yeah,
maybe they are.
But
characteristic arrays were switched.
I really
definitely.
Don't. Yep. I see what you mean. Maybe
you look at Savant, and then the examples. A scholar. I think a scholar would have intellect higher than.
Yeah, I would think.
Cunning.
Yeah, I would think the intellect 5 and cunning 2.
Yeah.
I think just those two stats instead of the whole array.
Yeah.
So,
now that I'm looking at it, because the agility and the cunning foe. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. So make a note of that, everybody.
Good call. Yeah, and look, I mean, those arrays can be tweaked a little bit.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
GMs. I'm going to be choosing for mine. I'm going to be choosing the large creature. No, sorry, just kidding. No, I'm going with skilled warrior. Actually, so the skilled warrior, because this is it's a big monster, but it's intelligent.
Ooh.
So, skilled warrior, brawn 4, agility 3, intellect 3, cunning. Or sorry, I'm reading the wrong one. Jeez, brawn 4, agility 3, intellect 2, cunning 2, willpower 3, presence 1. I didn't like that. I did this. This is the closest one. I needed the willpower to be just a little lower and that cunning to be just a little higher, so I switched them.
Cool.
Yeah,
well, there you go.
There.
Yeah.
If it fits more your type of character, why not?
Mm-hmm.
These are just guidelines.
Yeah.
Right.
But these get close. These get really close, to be honest.
Yep. Yeah. And then of course that gives you your first boost to power level. Now, your starting power level for everything, we forgot to mention in the very first paragraph, it mentions that they all start at 0, but for beginning, for combat, social, and general, they all start at 0. But at the end, if that still remains 0 or a negative number, it's always rounded up to just a flat 1.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
So in this case, my starting profile, skilled warrior, I have combat +2, social 0, and general 0. What about you, homie?
It looks like with this array, it made my combat a +1 and general +1, so I'll have a combat of 2, social 1. Combat 1, social 0, general of 1 right now.
Okay.
Cool.
Right, that's a good base.
Alrighty.
Whereas my little minions, the Sturges, they're small creatures. So basically, just at the top of the table, small creature. Almost all attributes or characteristics are 1 except agility at 2 and intellect 2. But I don't think a Sturge would have that much intellect, so I would drop it down to a 1 and increase its agility because they're quick, fast little buggers.
There you go.
Boost that to a 4, and that makes the power levels basically -1 for combat, -1 social, and 0 for general, because right now they're just a basic minion.
Yep.
Nice.
All right. What do we have? So that was step 2.
Mm-hmm.
What do we have next?
Step 3. We're going to calculate the other derived stats: the soak, the defense, the wounds, the strain threshold. The wound threshold and strain threshold, both. It says here, once you have the adversary's determined characteristics, you can figure out their derived attributes. Wound and strain, soak, melee and range defense. As such, it uses table 2-2, which has all those in it. And you may select up to 2 options from the table.
Nice.
Of course, if your adversary is a minion, you should select 0 or 1.
Awesome.
Now, they have several little caveats in this chapter also. There's a lot to it because this is the meat and potatoes of the stat block when you're looking at it. I mean, how much damage does it take to knock a monster out or knock a foe out in a social encounter? That's a key thing. What was I? So it starts off with the soak. The soak rating for your adversary. You start with a value equal to their brawn characteristic, and you'll be able to add armor to your adversary later with equipment.
Yep.
If you like your adversary to have a higher soak, if it is a creature that doesn't wear armor, such as being naturally armored, in the case of mine, then you'll want to take one of the options provided in the table and increase that. So that's one of what I've done, and I've chosen for mine Armored Hide, which will increase my soak. So with my brawn of 4, my soak now becomes 6. That's pretty high. And one thing it says here in this little caveat is just remember that a soak of 4 or 5 is good for a combat-focused adversary. If your adversary's soak increases beyond 7, your PC's basic weapons will have a hard time doing meaningful damage to your adversary.
Yeah.
For this reason, we recommend not increasing your adversary's total soak value above 7. So mine sits at 6.
Cool.
And I like it right there. So I'm not going to choose another one in that area.
Yeah.
And so then you look at the ranged and melee defenses. Melee and ranged defense are for your adversary. You start out with a 0 in both ratings. Your adversary's ranged defense may go up based on their gear. However, it's perfectly acceptable for your adversary to have no defense. If you feel your adversary needs a ranged or a melee defense, look at the table and choose. And remember that the defense rating cannot be increased above 4 as a hard cap for any reason.
Nice. So max 4 setback dice for defense.
Yep. And I've decided this adversary does not need to have defense.
Nice.
Okay. What am I looking at here? Well, the wound and strain thresholds.
Yeah.
So the wound, I have a big monster, Silhouette 2. I want it to have a high wound threshold.
Yeah. These are actually brilliant suggestions here, this wound threshold and strain threshold area.
So
this is great.
Yes. So when using these rules, these starting wound threshold, strain threshold values for each adversary type, you should start with them. Wound and strain thresholds can be increased based on the options provided in the table, and you may want to tweak them at the end, and there's rules for tweaking them at the end. So for minions, a minion with a brawn of 1 would have a wound threshold of 3. Otherwise, a minion should have a wound threshold of 5. Simple as that.
Yeah, that's easy. Easy enough. And then my rival's going to have a wound threshold of 8 plus his brawn, so he's going to be at looks like his brawn is 2, so he'll be at 10 wounds.
Yep. And then my Nemesis should have a wound threshold of 12 plus their brawn rating, and they have strain, a strain equal to 10 plus their willpower rating. So right from the get-go, my Nemesis has 16 wounds and 12 strain. But if you notice, Armored Hide, I've already chosen that option. Armored Hide grants the +2 to soak, but it also grants +5 to the wound threshold.
That's cool. That's cool.
So that puts me up to 21 wound threshold.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that would be great for a Silhouette 1 adversary Nemesis, but not for a big monster.
Right. Well, they do have the last sentence on this page 76. It says, generally, monsters should not have a wound threshold lower than 10 times their silhouette. So you're at least over that. Your silhouette was going to be 2, right? So you want at least 20 wounds for that guy.
But I can take up to 2 as as a nemesis, I could take up to 2 options on this table.
Yeah, you can. What other option
And-
are you going to take?
Well, she's a clever girl. I like the very tough.
There you
Yeah,
go.
that's what I thought you were
pretty
going.
good. That's not bad.
So I took very tough as
Mhm.
well as my armored hide. That would give my grand total wound threshold plus 10, 31 for my wound threshold.
Mhm.
I'd hate to go against this nemesis.
Mhm. Let's hope it doesn't happen anytime soon.
Let's hope
Yeah.
it doesn't. Hmm.
Now, there is a bit of additional guidance here, and there's some there's a sidebar here, things that we need to mention.
Yeah,
But I'd like to find out what you've chosen as an option, homie.
Oh, yes. Well, let's just go down to the third one in the list. Dodgy. I've got a dodgy gunslinger. That makes sense, you know. I mean, he's cunning. He's dodgy. So plus 1 to his defense. And I'll worry about that long leather duster giving me like the soak, you know, like the plus 1 to my soak, my equipment doing that. Other than that, that's good to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, and did that change your
It did not.
combat rate?
Yeah, it did not. My combat, it's going to still stay at, I'm still sitting at 1, 0, and a 1.
For me, my combat level went up once for each of that armored hide and very tough. So I'm
Okay.
sitting at a combat level now of 4.
Nice.
Social
right.
still 0, general still 0.
Okay.
And of course, Stefan, you're not going to be making any choices in there. So why don't you, good sir, take some of these sidebars and whatnot?
Yeah, being a minion, I could tweak him a bit, but no, won't get a bonus on soak or wounds really, so it doesn't apply.
So I'm assuming your Sturges there, they have a brawn of 1, so they'll have the wounds of 3,
Just
right?
a soak. Yeah, soak 1. I tweaked it because it's a magical beast and put originally in my document 4 wound threshold, but that's only 1 point above. I could leave it at 3.
Oh, yeah.
It could
Yeah,
be
that's
perfectly
totally
fine too. It doesn't modify the current power levels anyway.
Yeah, right. And you know what? There is something to be mentioned on that. Oh, actually, that's down there at on our next the next part of this where we're figuring out the
But if you want me to
ratings.
go over the compounded defenses,
Yes. Yeah, do that. That's important.
so there's a little sidebar that they have on page 76. So when creating your adversary, you have multiple opportunities to make them tougher in combat. You can increase their soak, their defense, or their wound thresholds, or you can give them even the adversary talent. However, they recommend not doing all of these because too many of these defenses can only just pose a risk of making the foe like very difficult to fight, and all the things on the GM side difficult to track. Okay, how many defense does he have? Oh, I forgot the adversary. So sometimes just limiting it to maybe 1 or 2 of those options. You know, a wound threshold is not so bad because once it's set, it's done. So it's just a number, but the defenses and soak and adversary, sometimes those are things that you have to remember. So don't do all of these because some of them are redundant, you know.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, you don't want to keep that in mind. You don't want to necessarily overcomplicate your the work you have to do as a GM here. So
No.
No.
Well, that's kind of the beauty of at least Genesys. You know, you can the adversaries don't follow the character creation rules for players, so you can tweak them a little bit more. And the adversary talent, for example, we'll go over what that means later, but it helps with avoiding gloat of stats.
Yep, absolutely.
Now, there's some key additional guidance here.
Mm-hmm.
Whether your adversary is a minion, a rival, or a nemesis, it had a big impact on its wound and strength thresholds. Example, minions usually work in groups, and combined wound thresholds. So their individual wound threshold is relatively small. There's a small range from 3 to 6. Yeah. Because if you have too many in a group, if you made a minion with a wound threshold of 7, and then you put 3 of them in a group, that's essentially like fighting a nemesis.
Mm-hmm.
Rivals tend to have wound thresholds that are roughly the equivalent to starting characters, between 10 and 15. And then finally, Nemesis should have wound threshold that matches or exceeds a PC's between from 10 to 20, no matter what they are. And then it goes on to say about the big creatures having more than that. And a Nemesis strength threshold should be a little bit smaller than their wound threshold. Unless they are specifically designed for social encounters or mages, then it should be higher.
Yeah, flip them around.
Yeah, I think I may have a little bit of a go back here, because as a rival, I could pick 2 of these, and I am liking having a hardy gunslinger, which adds 5 to his wound threshold, which would put it at his wound threshold up at 15, so it wouldn't necessarily be like a one shot with only his 10 wounds. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to do that. Let's do that. And that doesn't add anything to the combat or social or general, but that makes it that makes him maybe a little. Yeah, go ahead, Steph.
Oh, sorry. And that could easily reflect that maybe this character, if he were a PC, he'd have a couple of ranks of toughened.
Yes.
Instead, but instead of calling it toughened, you just say, well, hardy at minion creation or adversary creation, and move on.
Yep.
And that's what I also looked at my profile and thought to myself, okay, I have a wound threshold of 31, but I have a strain threshold of 12, and it says here in the stat block, or in the notes, that it should be a little bit smaller than their wound threshold. So I went and said, okay, I can't do 28 or something like that. I just can't justify having that much strain, but I should add some more to it. So I went ahead and increased it to 16, which is roughly half of what my wound threshold is.
So she's a savvy girl then. You pick savvy there then, with the 5 threshold plus 5 strain?
Well, no, I didn't add that. I just added a little bit more strain. I instead of adding, because that adds 5 strain, I just increased her strain by 4 more.
Cool.
I could probably do with 3 more and go with a 15. Really, 15 or 16 doesn't matter. I'm just tweaking the profile just a little bit to balance it, because I don't want this particular monster to be, oh, look, you hit it with a stun gun, it's out.
Well, there's that.
So
you don't, huh?
No.
All right. Just wondering.
All right. All right, then.
All right.
So that's it for those derived attributes or secondary characteristics.
Yep. That was step 3. We are halfway done with our peeps. All right.
Let's go on to the important skills, how they do things.
Oh,
that's a big chunk, Stefan. You want to read it to us, buddy?
Sure. So, step 4, skills. So, among the most important choices to make for your adversary, skills define how they play at the table. However, it's easy, and I've fallen into that little bit of trap doing my best, Jerry, of giving too many skills.
Yeah.
Too many ranks and too many skills. Sometimes they say, don't worry, your adversary does not have to have all the skills that you feel they should have, because they won't be interacting sometimes in the scene that long.
Yeah.
Focus them on exactly what they're supposed to do in the scene and forget about the rest. If you want, you can wing it, give them a rank or 2 and 1 other skill, even if it's not listed.
Right.
So don't get bogged down in too many skills. So, and adversaries, as they say, can still make skills untrained, just like PCs. And most adversaries, will only encounter the PCs in a few limited encounters and very limited kind of scenario, whether it's social or combat. So you don't have to have them list every little skill.
Yep.
And of course, in social encounters, some skills are used offensively. This is what I liked. like charm, leadership, deception, negotiation, and coercion, to influence others, while others are used defensively, like cool, discipline, vigilance, and negotiation, to resist said influence. So some social encounters are usually more interesting if an adversary is more offensive than defensive, which is why the skill packages have a higher ranks in those skills and less and the ones that oppose it. That way the PCs, yes, they feel threatened when the adversary is trying to coerce or intimidate them, but they can still try their own social skills without it seeming, hopeless.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I like that. I like that little tidbit there, making it making your social adversaries a little more offensively focused rather than defensively focused. It's kind of cool.
That's it.
I like that. I like that.
So you can still try to coerce, intimidate, or negotiate or charm the NPC without worrying too much about, I'll fail automatically. No. You can still try it.
Okay.
And a little bit like the packages for soaks, and you can choose 2 skill packages for your adversary, unless he's a minion. But because minions don't count on skill ranks. It's just the number of minions per group that matter.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. So you'll pick 1 or 2 skill packages there.
Yeah.
And then if you've got a villain that's going to be reoccurring, you might do up to 3 packages instead.
Exactly.
It says here,
They do. Yeah, they do mention that at the very end. So
yeah.
But minions, like the Sturges, I don't list ranks. I just pick a few skills that they might have.
Yep.
For a Sturge, athletics, just for maneuvering stuff. Bit of brawl, perception, and survival. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. So they call those group skills for the minions. So you pick 1 package, and this is, I made a note of this just to make a note of this to everybody. They have this down in the very corner of the page next to this really kick-ass picture, by the way, of looks like a female dwarf smashing a skeleton. I love it. That's great. And then 1 little sentence at the very top of that page. It says, in addition, so that under minions, even if the package increases the minion's power level by a maximum of 1, still only or more than 1, just cap that at 1 if the skill package increases it more than that. Because again, like you said, Stefan, they're group skills. When your minions start going away, they get less potent as the combat goes on. Yeah. Excellent.
Cool. Yeah, even if you choose 1 that would add +2 to a combat power level, it's +1.
Yeah. Yeah. And
so there's more of a note here. It just keep in mind that the ratings that the skills that they use are the generic ones. That there's going to be some setting specific skills that you may want to substitute in, especially when it comes to combat. If you're using the subset skills, ranged light, ranged heavy, melee light, melee heavy. If the skill package lists a basic combat skill, aka melee, you may give your adversary any or all of the appropriate subskills.
Yep, at the same level.
At the same level.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
But if you want to keep things simple, you can just say melee and range and then be done with it, because especially minions.
Yep. And in addition, these packages, again, it says mentions other setting specific skills. Your setting does not include a skill that comes in the package. You should not apply this skill to the adversary. If it's not in the setting, don't apply it.
No, exactly.
Choose something different. It's not going to hurt.
Yeah, that makes sense.
What? No computer skills in Terranoth?
I mean, nope. You can have them. They're not going to be doing you much good.
That's right. Yeah. They do have a note here regarding duplicate skills, too. So if you happen to pick 2 groups of skills, choose the higher of the 2 values. If there are 2 different values, choose the higher of the 2. Don't combine them. Don't add them. Right. No. And then again, they mention, just limiting the number of skills to 8. Remove the ones you don't want.
Core rulebook and the original adversary creation rules. They mention that there. So it's nice to see that consistency.
Yep.
So what'd you pick, homie?
Well, it's in the name. It's what inspired this one. It's called Gunslinger. Gives me a cool of 3, coordination of 2, ranged of 4. Oh yes, skullduggery of 3. This will add +1 to my combat, 0 to my social, 0 to my general. So there's that one. For the Gunslinger, I kind of want to do a little more socially based one, because those are pretty good physical skills, right? But I wouldn't mind doing. Gosh,
what about I'm just thinking outside the box here. What about Crime Boss or the Criminal Tough?
Coercion, discipline, leadership. Crime Boss is cool. I like that. Oh, what was the other one? Criminal Tough? Coercion, resilience. Yeah.
I think the Criminal Tough because it gives you that coercion.
So. Yep.
They do have one for Gunslinger.
Well, yeah, he's got that already.
Yep. That's one. That's the first one I picked. Yeah, you know what? I think I'll go with that Criminal Tough. What else? What else is there? There's a.
Oh wait, Duelist.
Oh wait a second. What? Is there a Duelist? Oh, there is. Cool, coordination, melee, stealth. Not so much because I already have cool. I already have cool with the Gunslinger, and coordination. That doesn't. Yeah, but don't necessarily need the melee. But Thief Assassin doesn't suck. That's got some deception, some stealth. Now, you know what? I'll do that. I like the Criminal Tough. We'll do that one. And that adds plus. It adds nothing to combat. It adds 1 to my social, but it adds 2 to my general skills, which will bring what are those? Adversary rankings, right?
Power levels.
Power levels. So my power level for combat would be 1, 2. My social will be 1, and my general will be 2. 3. Yeah, so my combat is 2, social is 1, general of 3.
Okay.
I'm liking this guy. Coming along pretty good.
My big nasty beastie.
Yeah.
I went with the
clever
top
girl.
of the chart here. I went with Ferocious Creature.
Really?
And Predatory Creature.
Okay,
Predatory.
then.
Both of them right there. So the Ferocious Creature is going to give me Athletics 3, Brawl 4, Perception 2, Survival 3, Vigilance 1. I like this. I like the idea of this creature having some stealth. So I was like, I really want Predatory Creature. Yeah. So that kicks me over. It gives me Brawl 3, so I just wipe that, keep the Brawl 4. Coordination 3, sweet. Now she's going to have a Coordination. Perception 4, cool. Bump that up. Survival 2, I'll just toss that out. And Stealth of 3. That's perfect for me.
Yeah.
So the Ferocious is going to get a combat rating of +1 and a general of +1. And the Predatory is going to give me a combat +1 and general +1.
Yeah.
So I sit at a 2, 4, 6. I sit at a combat of 6, a social of 0, and a general of 2.
Ooh, boy. Alrighty then.
Nice.
Now, what's next, homie?
Well, what's next is what did you pick for yours there, Stefan? Or you already said? Did you pick a specific array that kind of is close to what you wanted, or skill package? I should say.
Yeah, I would have chosen Ferocious Creature. I don't take into consideration the skill ranks, but it's still a ferocious creature, not a basic one. So it gives it +1 combat, +1 general. And it does include the skills that I had added.
Predatory.
Athletics and Brawl.
Predatory, that actually gives them a stealth of 3.
No,
you know what I mean?
Gives them a stealth.
would just give them stealth.
Opinions.
But
What
I
do you
don't think spirits really care about
Group
stealth.
skill.
Sorry, it would just give them stealth. You're right.
Yeah, but I like limiting it to just four. As a swarm, they aren't that stealthy. They start swarming, they make a lot of noise. It's like, ooh,
Makes sense.
blood sacks, walking blood sacks are nearby.
Yeah, there you go. That's true.
Athletics, brawl, perception. Oh, there's the meat bags and survival. That's fun.
Nice. Okay, well then. That was step 4, picking our skills. Now step 5 was a pretty fun one here. It's going to be your talents and your special abilities. So basically, talents and special abilities are two different things. Talents are elements that are taken by player characters, while the special abilities are typically are unique to adversaries and cannot be purchased by PCs at all. They could have some similar mechanical functions, but you'll just want to pick them at the adversary creation step too. So it looks like they've got some notes here for when you're picking these talents and special abilities. Well, first off, there are like 72 talents, including the adversary talent in core rulebook alone, and everybody's creating new talents on their different settings and such. So, yeah, there's just so many. You can call that a force multiplier if you want, a talent multiplier. When we have more. Oh, see what I did there, Tony? And like we had said before, combat encounters really only take maybe 3 or 4 rounds. So if you have abilities for your adversaries, I love this sentence. If your adversaries has an ability, they should use it at the first viable opportunity during an encounter, because you probably won't get another chance to do it again.
That's it, so may as well.
Yeah, unless you plan on this adversary to be maybe a reoccurring bad guy or your main nemesis in your campaign, then sure. Save the big, nice power for, for the end of the campaign or something like that. So there are also some notes here on the talents that are specifically designed for PCs. So you want to avoid those talents that upgrade the wound and strain thresholds, because you've already calculated those. Defense, your soak, and then your attributes as well. Okay? And then talents that are used during narrative encounters, let me see. You want to avoid the talents that are used during narrative encounters and don't affect the PCs directly. Let's see. And then avoid the giving your adversaries the plot point elements that add plot points or modify the ongoing narrative, because you know what? You're the GM. You can just change it on the fly if you want. They call out 2 specific ones here. Know somebody or how convenient are the 2 you might want to steer away from. Let's see here. There are things that offer protection, the increase of protection, like dodge, sidestep, and defensive stance. They work well with your PCs, but again, some of those you might even, you have to spend strain, you have to spend maneuvers, but the adversary talent just kind of rolls that in to one nice little package. So leverage that guy.
Very neat.
Yeah. That's actually a fairly brilliant talent for adversaries, to be honest. That's pretty cool. Let's see here. Some more details. Let me see. So special abilities are things that adversaries will have that the PCs will not have. And they just won't have them. Like, they can fly. Swarm of insects or sturges. You won't be doing like half damage to a whole party. You won't be giving your party the swarm ability. Though that could be actually kind of interesting. May have to noodle on that one. What's
They
that?
do mention, Chris. Mention, Chris, that the closest thing would be the archetype special abilities that start. Like, for example, a dwarf sees in dark vision. Like maybe could be an ability.
Yes.
That
yes,
a creature,
you are correct.
monster.
Yep.
But it's not a talent. That would be the closest thing.
Right.
They might have.
Absolutely. So they have a list of talents here. Adversary talents, table 2.4. They also have the special abilities table 2.5. I really like the predetermined number of ranks they have selected for talents. So you can give your adversaries ranked talents. It's just, here's like, for instance, parry 3. Don't worry about whether they have parry 1 or parry 2. It doesn't matter. They have parry 3. That's all you got to worry about. You could give them the improved version of, say, improved field commander. Who cares if they don't have field commander, don't have that written? Just put it in your description. That will
Assume they have it.
Assume they have it, and write down the basic ability of, like, field commander, say. Second wind 4. That's not bad. That's one where you could spend a story point, and your bad guy can heal 4 strain. That's very handy in a social encounter, by the way. Absolutely. Kind of got that out of the way. Now let's go into kind of the guidelines they have here for the talents and special abilities for our different adversary types. And Stefan, since you're doing the minion, why don't you go over those?
Sure. So my Sturges...
or go over the guidelines. Let's see what they have for guidelines and what you picked. Sure. We'll do that. Let's do that.
So for minions, they recommend strongly not giving minions any talents by default, and no more than 1 special ability. But they do recommend giving them no special abilities by default unless the minion group needs that ability to represent its particular nature. So, and if you want to give your minions a talent, well, think carefully about it, and that it fits the theme, and has an interesting impact, at least on how they work in the game. So, also minions should have at least have 1 talent or 1 ability, but no more. That's what they recommend. But since my Sturges are a little special, I still did not give them any talents. They're not that special, but they're Sturges,
Yep.
When they do attack, I gave them a couple of abilities. Well, of course, they fly. And they see in the dark, which is fairly easy to narrate, not too much there. And their silhouettes there. The silhouette they sort of group that under special abilities, but their silhouette 0 and taken individually, so big deal. I don't think I'll count that as something that makes a great impact. But I did give them the ability to blood drain. So they drain blood at the end of the turn. That's what they do. After they've attached to a foe, inflicting a point of brawn damage. So brawn goes down.
Oh, that's nasty.
Yeah. They don't rely on the actual damage of wounds. Once they've attached, they can drain brawn. And once it has dealt 4 points of brawn damage, it detaches and flies off to digest.
That's nasty, dude.
Yeah. And they have the ability to attach. When it attaches, basically it's a successful brawl ability, but based on their agility. And a target can try a hard coordination or brawn check to try and remove one of the Sturges.
Yeah.
So there's always a chance. So that's already difficult enough. And finally, the ability, since they're carry-on eaters, they're just like flying rats.
Yeah.
They live in stagnant environments. The target can have maybe a chance of contracting a disease. A filth fever, blinding sickness, or a similar disease. They say like a 10% chance. So you can use your percentage dice that you use for crits and see if the character who's been drained of some blood contracts a disease.
Gotcha.
So that's my build.
Steve.
Yeah, that can be nasty.
I still don't want to run up against Sturges.
No. So
Thanks, Stefan.
with all of that, I at least gave them at least +1 combat and +1 general. Nothing on social because they don't do social.
Gotcha. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, my thief acrobat that died to Sturges way back in first edition.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still have PTSD from that.
Nice. Nice.
All right. And I would say,
then.
like, if a creature, one of the Sturges' blood drains, one of them has managed to, like they say, drain 4 points of brawn, reduce that minion group by 1 as the Sturge leaves the group to digest its meal.
Nice.
Oh, that's not a bad idea. That's cool.
Yeah. So maybe it gets the minion group gets a little weaker, but hey, someone got drained of 4 points of brawn, so there might not be.
There's a
the
Sturge
best of
flying
health
around
anyway.
with that bloated, not so fresh feeling.
That's
Exactly.
right. Awesome. Well, alrighty then. Well, is that all you got for your minions there then, Stefan?
Yep, that's enough for this particular minion. Yeah. What about
right,
rival?
just wondering.
There,
So my rival, my gunslinger here. So rivals, they don't always need talents, but linked to their area of expertise is fairly appropriate. You should give your rival up to 1 talent. Also, avoid giving rivals talents that require them to suffer strain, because that actually, they would be suffering wounds, if you all know. Yeah, it's not an absolute rule. Just just caution when you do that. They can also have up to 1 special ability. Now, looking at this list, he's a gunslinger. Gunslingers need quick draw, right?
Right.
nope, that would definitely fit.
So that'll be 1
Now, I'd like
of my talent.
I'd like to point out that in Star Wars, their gunslinger had an ability in their talent tree. It's the only talent tree that has it, called Improved Quick Draw, which allowed them to draw 2 weapons
Nice.
as an incidental.
That doesn't
And I would
suck,
think
Tony.
that your gunslinger should have the improved version, because that's one of the things it
I like
mentions.
it. Yeah.
Somewhere in here it mentions that if you're going to take a talent and there's an improved version, and you want the adversary to have the improved version, just give them the improved version.
There you go. Draw 2 pistols.
Merci, chérie.
Now, there wasn't... Draw 2 pistoles. So it does say you give him a special ability. There weren't any special abilities here that felt like my gunslinger. Other than a special ability here that I would actually pick for a Nemesis, which one of my favorite special abilities here, 1 step ahead. Once a round after an opponent performs an action or a maneuver, you may spend 1 story point to have this adversary perform an action or maneuver as an out-of-turn incidental. It says, and recommends powerful nemesis who can combat the PCs alone. Not so much. But I would like to give him a 2nd talent. And because I'm going to be able to draw those 2 pistols, I might as well be able to wield them both. Dual wielder as a talent, which I believe that reduces. He will not have to increase his difficulty when shooting with both pistols.
Yep.
Now, if I wanted to make him a little more of a, not like a nemesis level, but maybe just a little tougher, I would. The only other thing that I would pick for him here would be give him adversary 1. But I'm feeling this guy the way he's good right now, the way he is. This is cool.
Very nice.
All right, thank you, buddy. All right, what do you got for us?
And
Tony?
giving your gunslinger adversary 1 doesn't increase any of his power levels. It's just a neat ability, but doesn't.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
No.
And
It might be appropriate anyway.
I might even do that. I might do that because it'd be nice to have that, PC that wants to duel this guy run out of ammo, right? If he rolls that despair, correct?
Well, you could always spend a story point. You don't necessarily need the adversary for that.
Oh, there's that.
No.
So, all right. I have to keep track of what this is up to now. I just added 1 combat to what I've had before. So it looks like I'm up to 3 combat, 1 social, 3 general, it would seem.
Alrighty then.
So what about your nemesis there, Tony?
Yeah. What
Well,
you got for
Where's
me?
she at?
Talents
What
and
do you wanna give
special
her?
abilities for nemesis. A nemesis should do something interesting at each turn of an encounter. This means that while your nemesis doesn't have the talents or special abilities, have to have talents or special abilities, recommend you give them some. Recommend not giving your nemesis more than 3 talents or special abilities total, unless they're a main reoccurring character in a campaign. In that case, give them 4 or 5.
Nice.
Total between the 2. Now, I went with 4. I went with 1 talent, and that is Adversary 3, because this thing is big.
Yep.
And it is nasty, and it's something you run into at the end of a big dungeon type.
Right.
It's a boss fight.
Yeah. It's a big boss fight.
Sure
Yeah.
is.
So, but it's big, it's nasty. I want it to be scary, so I went right to the bottom of the chart. Terrifying.
Nice. I like it.
And there was another one I saw on the chart, and Chris, you know me well. You saw it too. One step ahead.
Yeah.
That just indicates a very clever, tactically clever foe.
Yep.
And this is a very tactically clever foe. It's got a survival instinct like nothing else.
Yeah. And to be honest,
and-
I would rather use this special ability than the optional initiative rules that they lay out in the core book.
Correct. Yeah.
Yep. I would rather do that instead of giving them what was it, 2 initiative slots, then like 1 at the very end of the
round.
round.
Normal initiative slot and then 1 at the very end. Is what
Right.
it normally works.
Because this would be this would be a good ability, assuming you have a story point to spend. So.
Yeah, of course. I mean, players are doing their job. They're giving you plenty.
Yeah, they are. It's going back and forth for sure.
So terrifying, that allows you to use the optional fear rules in the back of the Genesys core rulebook, which I love those fear rules, and I have my own expanded sanity version of them.
Yes.
Yeah, you do.
But it says it's key for large monsters and creatures, so that was really fitting. And then the 1 step ahead, powerful nemesis who would combat the PCs alone. Yeah. This is designed to be a group fight for a group. So, so those 2 increase my my ratings, my power levels. Combat for terrifying, it's combat, social, and general, all +1. And for the 1 step ahead, it's combat 2. Social 1 and general 0,
nice.
Which puts my totals 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 combat.
Yep.
2 social and 3 general as of now.
Yeah. Another one for your
I'm there. I'm going with it. The third one. I haven't mentioned it yet.
I wonder.
The third special ability I chose was natural weapons.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, because this creature has it's a monster, so it's not going to be carrying around weapons.
Nope.
It's going to have natural weapons. And what it says for natural weapons is you're going to choose one of the weapon profiles from the small beast or creature equipment arrays and add it to your adversary's weapons.
Yep.
Do not record this ability on their profile. So you don't record it as a part of the stat block. You're just going to add
A weapon.
And
profile.
this creature would normally have 1 attack normally, and then now this is going to give them 2 more, for a total of 3 total attacks. And I'm going with the large beast or creature stat block.
Nice.
So the natural weapons itself intrinsically no change, 0, 0, 0 across the board to combat social general, and the large beast or creature equipment array is going to give me +1 to my combat. So I'm now sitting at a total of 10 in combat.
Right.
Now
I can put that up to an 11 for you. I have another suggestion.
I'm going to create my own special ability for a 5th item.
Oh.
That special ability, I'm not creating it. I'm doing what I do on the slab. I found something somewhere, and I'm going to plug it in here, and to give it a combat rating of 2, because it's going to come into play a lot in combat.
Nice.
So I give it a combat rating of 2. So that gives my creature a combat profile of 12.
That's nasty. Now, if there were like little minions about, the Loyal Followers is a great, flavorful ability where once per round, when the adversary is targeted by a combat check, they can choose one ally within short range and they attack against them instead. That's great. Bless you.
Sorry about that.
That one came up on him so fast he couldn't mute fast enough.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for our listeners.
It happens. Happens to me all the time.
I just have time enough to move the mic away from my mouth.
Yep. But yeah, you're right, Chris. I would normally, this monster, I would totally give it that Loyal Followers. Mm-hmm. However, this particular one, because this is a one-shot NPC or adversary, I'm not giving it that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I like it.
Instead, I gave it the 1 step ahead. And I would switch. Those two are interchangeable. 1 step ahead or Loyal Followers.
Yeah.
Could be interchangeable for this creature.
Cool.
And I would see Loyal Followers as a great ability to give a nemesis that's not tough as tough in combat, but more social. You know, he's loyal. He's
somebody
inspired. Cobra Commander. You know,
or somebody who's shooting from somebody who's attacking from chicken shit range too.
Oh yeah,
right.
Oh yeah, exactly. You know, the Lich in the back who has all his undead minions in front of him.
Hell,
they take all the hits.
You know it, dude. So I have a comment on just 2 other abilities here. I don't know if you guys do, but I just wanted to mention that the Swarm ability is brilliantly simple, where you basically have the damage dealt to this adversary before applying soak, unless there's the blast or burn quality. That's it. It adds +1 to combat, but you go read like these swarm rules for like an addition that shall not be named, or Pathfinder or whatever. What are the swarm rules again? What are they immune to? Blah blah blah.
Yeah,
this just simplifies it. And then the one right after that, called Tactical Direction. My Stormtrooper sergeants have this that I ran last night. I ran a Star Wars game last night. I'm surprised this doesn't give a combat +1, because being able to, on your adversary, the guy that's leading your minion groups or whatever, to give them a free maneuver within medium range as an out-of-turn or incidental, or just to give them a boost die to their next check. I don't know. It feels like it needs to be a little more than just a +1, a +0 to the combat. What do you guys think?
Well,
I don't know.
It's situational. That's the thing.
That's
situational,
right.
And not always are your minions going to need. If they're staying in one spot and using a ranged weapon, or standing in one spot using a melee weapon, they're going to use their maneuver to aim, and they don't need another maneuver. It's when your minions are trying to maneuver around the battlefield, and you've got a lieutenant that's with them, or in this case, your stormtrooper sergeant. Mm-hmm. This gives you abilities to take that second maneuver that minions don't normally get because they cannot suffer strain voluntarily.
Yep.
And so they can only ever get one maneuver without a sergeant nearby. And that's so it's kind of a built into the, it's situational though. It's still very situational.
And that's why it's only 0. Okay.
Yeah.
I see that.
Yeah, and the only way a minion could have 2 maneuvers is if they downgrade their action to a maneuver.
Right.
Gotcha.
Right.
So
they could do that. I'm sorry.
Do that.
They'll never get 2 maneuvers in an action without this ability being on a rival.
Right.
Exactly.
Now this is as an out of turn incidental, so does that doesn't count against their number of maneuvers per turn, right?
It does. They still have their hard cap of 2
It
per
doesn't
turn.
say it in here. Where would that come in? Where would we find the rules for that?
Stormtrooper Sergeant profile. I'm sorry.
Well, we're not playing Star Wars anymore, but I'm just saying, I use that as an example because I used it last night. That's why it stood out to me when I read it today. But it doesn't say it here in Genesys. There's no cap on it. Is there a cap on it in Genesys?
Yes, there's a hard cap on maneuvers. Unless it specifically states otherwise, you are capped at 2.
Okay, then. That'd be nice to have in here. Then that's something they missed, I think.
Yeah. If there isn't a cap, then I would definitely see it as being a +1 combat.
Right. And the way I read it, the way I'm reading, and that's probably why I think it was probably because I'm thinking, hey, this actually gives them a 3rd maneuver in 1 round.
Yeah.
Now, I know you can't take more than 2 on your turn when it's your turn, but out of turn, you might be able to move a little more. Anyways, just figured I'd bring that up because it was interesting.
Yeah. That's it. And going back to the Swarm, the reason I didn't give Swarm to my Sturges is that they're a little bit bigger than a typical Swarm. Swarms will be very tiny bugs, bees and ants.
Yep.
And, hummingbird size maximum. These are a bit bigger, like bat size. So they can be hit individually, but
Vorpal,
give them the Swarm.
Vorpal, honeybees.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. Or Vorpal hummingbirds.
So,
all right.
I just want to make a note on that. There's some stuff here. The about talents, some more stuff, prerequisites and tiers.
Okay.
Before we move on to the equipment arrays and whatnot.
Yep.
It says you don't have to abide by tiers and prerequisites when you're adding talents to your adversaries. You don't, if you have a single tier 5 and 2 tier 3 talents or nothing else, that's fine. You don't have to have a pyramid for your adversaries. And you don't have to worry about prerequisites. If it tells you have to have this talent to get the other talent, nope. You just, same with the quick draw improved, like I said, in that stat block in the Star Wars Gunslinger, you had to have quick draw to get the quick draw improved. In this, you don't. If there's an improved version of a talent or a talent that has a prerequisite, ignore it.
Yeah.
Ignore the prerequisite.
And so assume he has it or simply skip over it because they're just bad guys, they'll be there only for a limited time anyway.
And then, of course, setting appropriate talents. There's talents listed in this profile that may not be, or in this chart here, that may not be appropriate for every. If you're doing a hard sci-fi setting, you're not going to give masterful casting to your adversary. So choose setting appropriate stuff. So.
Yep. Good point.
Exactly.
Okay. Well,
so
then.
now step 7, right?
No, 6. In the PDF, it's going to be 6. If you bought the
tiny little typo
book,
in the printout book. Yeah.
If you print out,
I'm looking at my physical book where it had step 5, talents and abilities, special abilities. Step 7, equipment. Step 6 is to pause and wonder where it went.
Where the step 6 was.
That's right. What did we skip a step?
But on the PDF, it's step 6. Equipment.
Yes, it is. Yep.
So equipment, specifically armor and weapons, can be a powerful multiplier. Close.
Force
for combat effectiveness. In addition, even more than talents, equipment is entirely dependent on the setting and your game taking place. There are 2 approaches to equipping your adversary. First is the freest form. You simply equip the adversary with the gear you feel they need, and you're done. And then you kind of apply a power rating based on sort of what you put on there.
Yeah.
And there's some guidelines for that.
Kind of, sort of. Yeah. These guidelines are great, by the way.
The guidelines are great, and I'll go into those. Or you can choose an equipment array, and they have a vast number of equipment arrays. 3 pages worth almost.
I mean, with just a little bit of tweaking, these pretty much you cover. I don't know if there's really anything these don't cover.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So these equipment arrays work just fine, but if you want to use setting-specific weapons and whatnot, or a named magic item or whatever, and you want to build that stuff and give it to your adversary, you're going to use the first method.
Yeah.
Using the first method, you've got some guidelines. The first guideline is the weapons that you give your adversary. If the weapon deals 4 to 7 base damage, we're talking base damage, not what's finally rolled with successes and whatnot, or armor with +1 soak or 1 defense, the combat power level boost is 0. And it only deals with gear here, only really deals with the weapons only deal with the combat power level.
Yeah.
Weapons that deal 8 to 14 base damage, +2 soak, or 2 to 3 defense, +1 power level. Weapons that do 15 plus base damage, armor with a +3 soak, or a defensive 4 is +2 to their combat power level. Weapons that allow the adversary to hit multiple foes or inflict multiple hits on a combat check are +2 to their combat level.
i.e. auto-fire.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Auto-fire
or
spells
Blast.
with multiple targets.
Blast.
Blast abilities. The one I created. But anyhow, armor with the reinforced quality is a +1 combat level, because reinforced means you can't be sundered, can't be destroyed, or armor with it you can't be critted. I think, I don't remember. I'm not going to quote. Don't quote me on that, folks.
It's it cannot be damaged. Suffered by sundered.
Okay. Well, I was right the first time. I start to question myself there. I shouldn't have. Gear that adds a advantage or removes setback dice from social or general skills is +0 to the social or general power level. But gear that adds success or boost dice to social or general skills are going to increase the general power level or social power level by 1.
Cool.
And last but not least, if you give your creature or person armor that then pushes their soak above 7, which they tell you not to do earlier in the chapter, but if you decide to do that, break the law.
Yeah.
It pushes it above 7, then increase that combat level by an additional +1.
Yeah, I'm giving my Sturges a special type of force field that increases their soak by +8. Not.
Okay. But those are the guidelines, and those work really well if you're creating something. But the arrays really work.
They do.
Yeah, they're very good guidelines.
They do.
Did you guys see any arrays you like? I know I chose one, but you guys
I chose
see any
one.
you like?
The one that I liked, that actually when I was just kind of flipping through here and just kind of looking, look at the second piece of equipment for the doctor. Face protection. Isn't that appropriate for nowadays? I don't know. I figured I'd just pull that out. I figured I'd just mention that. That's pretty cool. There was one other thing. What was it?
It adds to your resilience checks.
Of course it does. And, stay have your social distancing in your RPGs. Gosh, there was something else in here that was, I don't know, they just put a couple of, like an adventurer, leather vest, backpack, length of rope, torch, and a well-worn hat. Why not?
And a whip.
Well, yeah. Don't read the idol. I'll give you the whip. Right? I don't know. I just think it's pretty cool. Some of these.
Yeah. No. Pretty cool. Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm. Flashy outlaw, maybe, for your gunslinger.
Of course it is. Yeah, he's got this array can equip a criminal with a flair for large, dramatic, and potentially impractical weapons. Person probably gives off a certain roguish charm. So his weapon is going to have an intimidating range weapon. My guy's going to have 2. They are certainly not going to be inaccurate. If anything, they will be accurate 1. So range light, damage 7, crit 3, range medium. Inaccurate 1? Nah, not so much. It's going to go to accurate 1 for both. A dashing coat with an exposed holster, or 2. We'll add a dashing duster. Adds an advantage to the results of all charm and coercion checks the character makes. A fancy cape or hat. Removes a setback from all social checks. He's going to have a nice hat.
Well, that's it. And keeps the rain off.
Right. Always
Nice.
have that.
Well, my minions will only have like small beast or creature, teeth and claws, or a blood-sucking proboscis. That's about it.
Okay.
Did you have any other favorites, though, Stefan?
No, not really. The Flashy Outlaw just, leapt out at me a little bit because of what Chris was thinking of, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I'll have to revisit this for my own Dragonstar as I was doing generic soldiers and warriors and listing equipment without bloating the stat blocks, so that could be looked at a bit more.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I honestly, I really enjoyed the noble. Just the flavor of it. They have a dueling weapon, and that doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be a dueling sword. It could be a dueling pistol, and just change it from melee to ranged.
Yep. Probably range short if it's a dueling pistol, I would think.
Right.
Yeah.
And instead of damage plus 2, damage plus 2 implies a brawn of 2 average, plus 2, 4. So you just set the pistol's damage at 4 if you were doing ranged.
Yeah, fair enough.
So, and then it grants defensive 1. In this case, if it's a dueling pistol, accurate 1.
Nice.
Fancy clothing adds an automatic advantage on all social checks this character makes. The Signet Ring of Authority adds a success to any social checks this character makes. So they're adding a success and an advantage. So they essentially have a pre-programmed boost die to the best side on the boost die.
There
which
you go.
is, I think, great. And then, of course, in important documents and a full coin purse. They've got all the money they need.
That's true. Nice.
So, the players are going to get that. That's why it's vague.
Exactly. Yeah,
depending on the setting, the world. Yeah, it could be silver or gold or jewelry.
So what I did is, because my big beastie has it has 3 attacks. My natural weapons only gave me 2 when I took the talent, or when I took the special ability. It only gave me 2. So I went ahead and chose large beast or creature again for equipment array to give me 2 more attacks types.
Awesome.
And so this big nasty beastie is going to have 4 attack types, but one of them, and this will give away what I made, I converted it to a defense.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I can't think.
So here's my attacks. I have claws that are going to be brawl, damage 8, crit 4, ranged with an ensnare of 1. And then I'm going to have my spiked tail, which is brawl based, damage 12, crit 3, and has vicious 2. Then it has a pharyngeal jaw. This is a brawl weapon with a damage of 10, critical 2, a range of it. All these are range of engaged. Pierce 3, but it has prepare 1, and it has vicious 3.
Eesh.
Attack.
And then my fourth damaging attack is concentrated acid for blood.
Yeah.
Boy,
When
what
a
did you
player-
make?
When a player...
Game over, man. It's game over.
Now, I will say something here in a minute that I cheated on these attacks, but the acid blood. The acid blood, when a player attacking this creature rolls 3 threat or a despair, the GM they will take damage. They take damage. I think it's 3 damage with burn 3 acid.
Okay. Jeez.
Yeah, they're going to take 3 damage that ignores soak and has burn 3.
Oh.
We're doomed.
We're doomed. Yeah.
Now, what I say I cheated because there is an individual who had created this monster already, and I had that thought after I decided to make this thing. That someone had done a treatment and put it up on the Fantasy Flight forums, and that was Phil Krasminski. Thank you, Phil, for doing that. You did a great job. A shout out to you. It's a great setting document, and that's the Aliens setting document that he did out there.
Of course.
And this is the Alien Queen. However, mine, because it's a unique one, and she's named, she is the Queen in Exile. Is what she's called. The Xenomorph Queen in Exile.
Oh my.
Because she doesn't have any of her drone. She no longer has her egg sac. She's alone. Trapped somewhere.
Well, she voluntarily detached from her egg sacs.
And yes. So
Someone else would call her just a bitch, but anyway.
So while I took
that.
and created my own main profile, I took his attacks and I just copied them over. And I took that acid blood defense for my 4th attack.
Right.
Cool.
So, yes.
Right.
And that is going to boost her total, because I chose this array, this large beast, that's going to boost her total combat to 13.
Okay. What's her social in general?
Social is 2, and her general is 3.
Okay, so total... Okay, so we're going to be getting into adversary power levels next. Wow, that's what would you come up with the total for your minions there, Stefan?
Well, I'm pretty close to what I came out with initially. So it started out at -1 combat and social in general. With all the bonuses, combat came out to 3, -1 for social. That becomes 1 because it's the minimum. And after all, general is +2. Instead of 1.
Okay.
Not bad. Pretty close. 3, 1, and 2. And initially I had 3, 1, and 1.
Nice. Well, I came out with combat of 4, social of 2, general of 3. And I actually went back to the skill arrays, the skill packages. Because of the quick draw talent that I grabbed, right? I noticed he didn't have vigilance as a skill. So I replaced Skullduggery in both skill packages, a Skullduggery 3 with a Vigilance 3 in the Gunslinger package. That gives him 8 skills. Because Skullduggery just didn't feel right for this dude. But Vigilance,
understandable.
But Vigilance did. So that was really the only tweak that I made to it. And then what I mentioned for his weapons gave him a second pistol, and I made the pistols accurate 1 instead of that. But I'm wondering, so I was looking at that. If I make those pistols accurate, does that increase the combat? So it's combat 1, social 1, general 0 for that flashy outlaw. And looking at those general guidelines you went over there, Tony.
Well, yeah, it does increase it.
Well, if you have a
boost.
Well, a boost die to social or general skill checks, it does. But it doesn't say anything about adding. So maybe the combat doesn't go up by 1. But maybe a second pistol would.
and this is going to be, the second pistol definitely would increase your combat.
Yeah, so I'll make the combat.
1.
I'll make that a +2 then. There we go. Okay.
Even if it doesn't add accuracy, you just remove the inaccurate. They're not more accurate, but they're not inaccurate either. They're just decent pistols that are fairly intimidating.
So that puts them up to a combat of 5.
Yeah.
Then, all right, sweet.
They're pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like this guy. All right. Anything else that we have for building these adversaries, or shall we move on to the power levels?
I think that's it.
Excellent. Well, so this next part, we were talking about... Oh, sorry, did you have something there, Stefan?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so this next part is making those encounters... I hate to use this word, balanced. I'm choking as a dungeon master and game master here. Why would you want to balance encounters? I don't know. Just put something out there. If they need to run, they'll run. But if you would like to balance your encounters, there's these adversary power levels allows you to get in the area of the power for your players, or for your player characters here. So we went into the different power levels. There's the combat power level, there's the social power level, and then there's the general power level, which the general, we didn't quite go into details about that, but those are things that will allow you to buff your allies, track your opponents through the wilderness, move easier, heal characters, and all of those. And then we did mention, and then at the very bottom of this first column here, it says, remember, if an adversary power level is at 1, increase it to 1. If it's less than 1, then increase it to 1. Which, Stefan, you had mentioned that when you were going over yours there.
That's it as well.
Yeah, and there's a sidebar here on the page, minion power levels. These power levels are assuming they're in a group of 3 minions. So if it's in a group of 2 or alone, you'll want to decrease that power level by 1. If it's in a group of 5 or higher, if you're creating minion groups with 5 of them or more, you'll want to increase the combat and social power level by 1, because you're upgrading those checks 4 times if you have 5 minions, right? So,
well, that's it. Then you're getting more dice, and so usually I've always made groups, minion groups of 3 or 4.
Yep.
Rarely higher than that.
Right.
So if you're 3 or 4, then you don't have to modify the power levels.
Right.
You're fine.
Right. Yep. And then, let's create an encounter. How are these used to create an encounter? Tony, or do you want to take this one?
Sure.
You want to walk us through this?
So using power levels to create an encounter, you want to know your group's power level. That is not, in D Shift 7D, it's easy. You're level 5, okay? In Genesys, it's a little bit more nebulous. Mm-hmm. We use the earned XP total.
Yeah.
Not the PC, not their total of beginning
not
XP.
Starting XP. No, not starting XP.
We use their earned XP total as a guideline. And it goes in, starts out in 25 XP increments and goes up to 50 and then hundreds at a time. And even jumps by the end, it's jumping 250.
Right. Yeah, so, I have an issue with the title of that first column. PC XP total should be average earned XP. To be honest,
right?
Because you may have PCs that haven't quite. Somebody might have missed a session, or 2. You'll want to take that, whatever their earned XP is, and then average it. Then wherever it falls, that's where you'll want to go. So, sorry, Tony.
That's okay. That. So each XP total has a series of entries and the list appropriate encounter challenges depending. And there's a chart here. It's a very detailed chart. Takes into account the number of player characters in your group.
Yep.
And it tells you which is an appropriate challenge rating for a moderately challenging encounter.
Right. So, for instance, if we wanted to do, we have an Advantageous Threats coming up here soon, and Steph and I have created 2 PCs with 0 earned XP. So, what would be the appropriate challenge rating for that Advantageous Threats, Tony?
It'd be 2.
Perfect. Okay. Sounds good to me.
And that's the minimum.
Yep.
And that would be appropriate for a moderate challenge for that group.
Yep.
Now, there's some additional modifiers, and there's also this little sidebar, which is very important sidebar, and that is know your group. Okay. That is key for any GM of any system. Knowing your group. I talk about my Grognard gamers for days about how these guys, they in other systems min-maxed like crazy. So I always had to give all my monsters maximum hit points. Always had to give them, a little tweak here and there. Give them an ability that the guys don't know they have because they've read the monster manual from cover to cover. Yeah, things like that.
3 times.
Yeah, and always had to throw them for a loop to keep it fresh for them. These guys have been playing with since I was 10. So
that's why I believe Genesys was so fresh for them, and Tiernoth fresh for me, and whatever. Haven't seen these adversaries before, and what abilities do they have? Oh, that looks like a basilisk. What? No, it can't be.
No. And you can tweak them even if it looks like a basilisk. It's like, no, it's a fire-breathing lizard. That's all. What?
That's why, mentioning another system, that's why Starfinder is so appealing to me. Granted, it's in that vein of 3.5, Pathfinder or whatever, but those adversaries are just different. It's a different feel, right? So, anyways,
it's very unique on the adversaries and the monsters in that. I will agree.
Yeah.
But yeah, your players, if they tend to have constant creative solutions to problems, then you might want to adjust. If they tend to be straightforward and simple players who don't solve the riddles very easily, you may want to adjust down. After all, you know them better than we do. These are just guidelines, and that's what this sidebar says.
Perfect.
And then there's also some additional challenge rating modifiers that go into this. The majority of the group is armed with weapons with a base damage of 8 or higher, +1 to the challenge rating in the encounter. So you could throw something bigger at them if they've got bigger weapons. If the majority of the group is equipped with nice armor that has +2 soak or higher, or a defensive 2 or higher, then you can increase that challenge rating by 1. At least 2 members of the party possess a means of inflicting multiple hits on a single target, or multiple targets. Then +1 challenge rating in combat encounters. And then there's also, if there is only one adversary opposing these at least 3 characters, then +1 to the challenge rating in all encounters. Gotcha. So there's some tweaking to that. It's not just hard-coded.
Right.
And again, you can go plus or minus to give your players a sense of, this is an easy encounter, this is a hard encounter, this is a deadly encounter, run the hell away.
So for us, I think what we've created there, Stefan, I think we're still sitting at a CR2. 0 XP, man.
Yep.
0 XP.
Yep.
Sweet.
Yeah, we should be fine, I'm sure.
I'm sure we will be. We'll be just fine.
But that pretty much covers, all of this. That was a big chunk and chapter.
It was. You know what? Tony, what do you think of this last? It says one final note right above where it talks about additional encounter rating for modifiers. It says one final note. When you build an encounter, generally you should ensure there are not any more adversaries than there are PCs, counting minion groups as one adversary. What do you think about that one?
As a general rule, that works. Because as a GM, especially one who GMs online all the time, it is tedious to keep track of multiple groups of minions, rivals.
Whatever,
I rarely ever, and only when I'm trying to herd or flood the group with adversaries, do I ever throw more adversaries at my players than I have players.
Right. Okay. Cool.
It works. That is a great note to do. If you got 4 players, try to keep your balanced encounter with 4 or less adversaries.
Yeah,
unless
cool.
Unless it's a big campaign ender, then throw 10 at them.
Why not? Or more.
Yeah, especially if your players are well equipped and they're fresh,
right?
And they're experienced.
Or just one big adversary that we can stun lock. But moving on. No.
Yeah. So, on that note, I think, are we done?
I think we're done.
So.
I think it might be time to do some advantageous threats, huh?
Yeah. All right, well, welcome back to the show, and we're on to our next segment, the Advantageous Threats, our favorite little segment where we build, roll, and narrate the die results for some sample skill checks for hopefully your entertainment and obviously ours. And this time, Tony is running us through a little scenario of slime and tentacles and stuff. What have you got for us today, Tony?
Is he?
Space, the final frontier. No, the away team of the starship Castello has been beamed to the surface of a newly discovered planet to study the crash site of an unknown alien spacecraft. Our 2 crew members have found what appears to be the remains of the crash survivors' campsite, when suddenly they realize they are not alone. So who are our 2 intrepid, red-shirted
well, they're being beamed down. They're being beamed down. So
that's right.
Sounds like I love internet, but anyway.
Yeah, who are you playing, Stefan?
I'm playing the very fit and dashing Lieutenant Darren W. West, who's very keen to prove himself to his captain as being an able security officer aboard the ship.
Nice.
And he's protecting whom, Chris?
Well, your chief security engineer or chief engineer Montgomery O'Brien, and Captain. The name of the ship is the Castillo, not the Castello. What the hell's the matter with you? All right, so
who's on first?
Yeah, and you know what? As far as a career here goes, the only thing I had to choose from is a hacker. But I'm a freaking engineer. Especially as far as the specialization is concerned, I'm the chief fucking engineer. I specialize in everything. Doesn't matter. All right.
Doesn't matter if it's broke. If it isn't broke,
by the way.
It doesn't matter if it isn't broke. I can fix it.
Well, exactly. And as far as like his background here, he's out to prove his worth on yet another away mission. His motivation is to explore new worlds and to seek out new technology and new life, and new civilizations.
So, to describe to you the scene before you, you beamed down to this planet about 1 kilometer from this current location. You had to hike here because near the crash site, there's strange radiation emissions that are preventing beaming to and from, messing with some tachyon emissions.
Right. I got out so as soon as we hit, boom, the tricorder is out, and I've got a comm badge. Just tap to talk, no flip phone to talk shit here, man.
Same here.
And then I've got my my tricorder It's to sling it around from the crossbody strap, flip it open, listen to the beeps, look at the colors, and just make shit up, as we're walking. So that's pretty much what...
It has an 8-track tape recorder, too.
Well, you're noticing very rich mineral deposits in the planet, and that it is tectonically unstable, and that the crash up ahead seemed to have happened in the last few years, sometime recently.
Right.
Although you'd have to get closer to it, which you guys then decide to do so.
Oh, yeah.
You get close to this crash, and you see this just wrecked alien spaceship. And alien by the means that you do not recognize the configuration.
Gotcha.
As a human craft.
Right. Well, now that I'm
your
here...
particular fleet of the stars.
Well, now that we're closer, can I maybe do a computer's check and use this stinking tricorder to maybe scan for life signs? Though it's been here for 2 years. I don't know if anybody survived.
Well, in a second. You're not getting any readings yet. You're need to make a check, is what I'm saying. There's no need to make a check. Okay. You're not getting any life readings other than microbiological life forms. Okay. Microbes that are naturally in the environment.
Right.
Okay. You get close, and you do find some biological remains.
Oh.
And this is where you find this campsite.
Okay.
And you're going around looking at the campsite, and you see there's these bodies, 2 bodies particularly that you find. They appear to be humanoid.
Okay.
However, they are both, they've been ripped in half.
Oh.
Round the waist, both of them, and they are producing the effluvia around their wounds is not red blood. It's a white milky substance.
Ooh.
What is that? I do a medicine check on them, maybe.
Sure.
Let's see, or scan or something.
Give yourself a boost die for that tricorder, because it can...
Okay. So I got a 4.
Darren will stand over and watch.
Sure. Well, a 4 intellect. I don't have any ranks in medicine because I'm the freaking engineer. I don't have bones down here with me. But I do have the boost die. What kind of difficulty are we talking, Tony?
We'll go with average.
Average. Okay. All right. I'm good with this. Okay. Cancel. 1 success, 2 advantage on this.
One success. Your success is you realize that they are not biological life forms. They're an android of some type.
Oh, interesting. All right. Well, maybe with my advantage, could I tell, other than, the fact that they're in half, what might have killed them, or what might have done that to them? Is it was it part of a what?
A massive spear.
A spear.
Like so speared.
So it wasn't like a middle. So it wasn't part of the crash. It doesn't seem like it was like a, they got like cut in half by like part of the ship. It looked like a spear. Okay.
And at that moment, some of the crash rubble nearby shifts and makes you two jump. Okay. Would you two please make vigilance checks at this point?
All right.
Okay. Vigilance for me. My willpower is 2. No ranks in it.
And is there a difficulty? It's going to be 3 red.
The red? Holy crap. Okay, then.
Now, you may choose not to make the roll and just be oblivious to this, if you'd like.
Oh, no. You'll try.
No, this is fun. I have a feeling I can make this check. Nope. Yep. 1 failure, 1 advantage, or sorry, 1 failure, 1 threat, and a despair.
Lieutenant Darren got a failure and a threat.
Okay. So, as you're looking over these bodies, and you're staring down at your tricorder, and you're looking at the wound very closely, the rubble shifts ahead of you, and you look up, and at that exact moment, you feel something loom up from behind you.
What?
Everyone roll initiative.
Oh,
I'm going to use your despair to upgrade my initial check.
Okay, then. That's great. Oh, I just got 1 for my initiative.
Okay. Vigilant. I got a success and 3 advantage.
1 success, 3 advantage, so 1.03. Chris, you had 1.00?
Yep.
Okay, and I had 2.02.
Okay, then.
So, I think it's quite apparent that your 2 gentlemen on this away team have run into something very big and very scary.
Right.
I will. So this large black creature bursts from beneath a small portable shelter nearby, and just spears down at you, Chief O'Brien, with its big spear tail. Just comes down right towards your back, upgraded because it's attacking you with surprise from behind.
Nice. This is great. And my despair upgrades it yet again?
Yep. No, I'm upgrading it for the despair.
Got it. Okay. Cool.
I'm for your threat, take a strain. For your threat, also, Stefan, take strain on your vigilance checks. I forgot to say that.
All right.
All right.
So my check right now is 4 yellow dice for my Brawn of 4 and my Brawl of 4. 2 purple for melee. My free upgrade for the despair, because I caught you by surprise, so that adds a green die.
Okay.
And she spent her maneuver aiming this, so I'm throwing in a boost die.
Perfect. Well, let's see here. The combat ready. Oh, hang on a second. I need to increase my soak by 1 because that uniform gives me a soak of 1. I don't have any defense. But I do have a story point I would like to flip.
Okay.
And
it is flipped.
All right. And then just to let everybody know what our CR is, it was 2, and everybody else can kind of guess what is attacking us. What would you come up with? The 16?
That's an irrelevant. It's an irrelevant point right now. We have dice to roll.
I know. Well, I'm telling a story, Tony. I spent a story point telling a story.
I understand, but the dice tell the story.
I know they do.
So
I know they do.
Do you have anything you want to do to my dice?
Well, yeah. I spent a story point to upgrade it.
Okay.
Yep. All and then I would probably soil my pants. So.
Okay. Well,
that's an incidental.
Unless we need to make a fear check or anything too. So that might.
So. Yeah, you're going to be making fear checks. That is true. When you first encounter this creature. So I will just have you both do it at the top of your initiative.
At the start of our initiative? Perfect. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so my green die came up blank. So getting you by surprise.
And the other yellows came up blank too, right? Oh, okay.
Right.
Hopefully.
one of my challenge dice is removed by one of my proficiency dice with 2 advantage and 2 threat. That's taken out.
Okay.
And my difficulty die I will remove with just the tiniest little bit of advantage off this boost die, leaving me with 1, 2, 3, 4 successes, 5 successes.
Yep.
1 advantage and a triumph.
Oh. Okay.
So my 5 successes means you're going to take 17 wounds.
Ouch.
Well, let's see. Considering I can soak 3 of those,
Okay.
I take 14 then? Any pierce?
Nope.
All right. Well, why don't you roll a critical?
Because I pushed you over your wound threshold?
I have 14 wounds of 12, but I believe I took the durable talent, so we will be able to. You'll be able to take 10 off of this when you roll it, Tony.
Okay. Well, I'm also going to spend my triumph
To crit me?
to increase my critical by
So
10.
it'll cancel, basically, so that'll cancel my durable talent.
And the weapon she is striking you with is vicious too.
So you'll add
There you go.
20% net to this.
Yes.
Okay. Go for it.
So she will roll the 71 plus 20%. That'd be 91.
Holy
91
buckets.
on the Genesys chart.
Yep. I'm going to it now, too.
I
Should've-
don't have it out in front of me. I'm
That's
putting
okay.
that away.
That's all right. It's what? You said it's 71? No, 91.
91.
91. At the brink, the target suffers 2 strain each time I perform an action until... That's great. I mean, I'm unconscious, so I don't have to worry about suffering strain.
Yeah. There we go.
Okay.
So
And,
I will add that one to my hit here.
So that is her action. Now she is
Well,
going to...
how many more
Yeah, so
attacks do you have?
Well, I mean, I could take another one if I
Why not?
wanted to.
Yep.
Because
You
I
know-
have the one step ahead.
No,
And
not now. You can't.
but not right now. I could take it later,
When one of us
which I will do after
we-
whomever wants to go next.
Well, I'm the only one who's conscious. Lieutenant Darren's the only one conscious, so he's a bit surprised, going, "Ah, what the hell is that?"
Well, fear check first.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sphere check. So as I do,
Discipline.
I always upgrade my fear checks based on ranks in Adversary. So her terrifying is going to be 3 red.
Ah,
Adversary 3? How did I know that?
She's
Yeah.
Adversary 3.
yeah. All right. No, I'm not going to spend the story point. I only got 1 left anyway, so going to roll that. So I only have 2 green, no ranks in discipline.
You got this. You totally got this. 2
Nope.
green versus
Nope,
3
I don't.
red?
Yeah, no, I've got 1 failure and a threat.
1 failure and a threat. So in fear checks, failure means you're going to suffer a setback die to all actions.
All
And
right.
a threat in your fear check means that you're going to have an additional setback die in the very first action as you're kind of frozen.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 setback dice. All right, fair enough. So
He's frozen. Just let it go, man. Just let it go.
yeah,
Let me go.
no, he's going to try to shoot his phaser pistol at it as an action, as a maneuver. Since he's right there, he was trying to cover Chief Engineer. Before all this happened, he's going to bend down to and touch his communicator, and he's like, Starship Callisto, 2 to beam up, 2 to beam up. No, man, it's game over. Or else it's game over. And he fires his pistol.
All right.
His phaser,
Phaser.
phaser pistol.
We
yes.
have. I chose a Type 1 phaser pistol, by the way. Oh yes, from the original series.
I'll just have.
Is he a
listed as
collector? Bezorch.
Well, because somebody listening to this, one of you 10 out there listening to this is like, I don't know what kind of pistol is it? Is it going to be from the original series or Next Generation or or from Picard? I don't know. No,
All right,
All
Stefan.
series.
What's
All right.
what's your dice pool look like?
Well, I'm clicking on it. Come on, save already.
Click.
I just want to
click. Dude, I was faster rolling with just my hands.
I know. Let me just go with the
and I'm
range light
dead.
then.
And I'm
There you
dying.
go. So, okay, I've got 3 green and a yellow. And I've got 2 setback dice because of my threats and other things.
You're at
So what's my
short range,
difficulty? Yeah.
which is normally 1 single difficulty die. However, with 3 upgrades for Adversary, you're
That's it.
going to have that'll be upgraded to red. Then it'll be upgraded to another difficulty die, and then that'll be upgraded to red. So you'll have 2 challenge dice.
2 challenge dice and 2 setback dice. All right, and he's going to try to aim a second maneuver, taking 2 strain, and aim for it.
Okay.
For a boost dice. All right. So there we go.
Are you done with your pool? You're not
I
done
think
yet.
so. I did
She's
not
kind of sort of holding the chief up between the two of you, almost like she's using him as a human shield speared on her
right.
tail.
Of course.
So go ahead.
Nice.
I flipped a story point, so add another difficulty die. Would you?
Right.
So like a
Okay.
rag doll, I'm in front of him.
Yeah. And I want to try to make sure we get beamed back up. So I'll do a flip a story point as well to get a.
Yeah, I kind of jumped the gun there. I should have let you do that first, but yes.
Well, that's okay. We're used to doing it out of order, but that's okay. All right. So I've got 2 greens, 2 yellow, a boost dice, 2 setback dice, 2 challenge, and a difficulty.
Rainbow
Let's
pool. Rainbow
Yay.
pool.
Do it.
Come on, roll dice.
I think we need to roll a couple of force dice in there too.
2 successes.
2 successes out of all of that.
All
right.
Oh yeah.
So that causes a total of the base damage is 5. So 7 damage, pierce 2.
7 damage, pierce 2. So, so she will soak 6 of that. No, she'll soak 6, pierce 2, so she actually only soaks 4 of it, taking
All right.
3. So she's at 20. She's at 3 wounds of her 31 wound threshold.
Right.
You got this.
He's just,
Okay,
and
she
he
is
just
going to
keeps
use her.
yelling into the
one-
comm, going, beam us up now.
She's going to use her 1 step ahead ability now.
Right.
Yep.
So as a reaction, I believe,
No, you just as an out of turn incidental. I believe.
as an out of turn
All right.
incidental.
Yep.
Sorry,
I don't know.
I also
I think you need to spend a
Also,
story point too. I believe there, Tony. Let me look real quick. We just did it, didn't we?
Yeah, got to spend a story point. I was just getting ready to look it up, but you do have to spend a story point. So
Okay.
I'm doing that.
Yep.
What you got, Stefan? What was the other thing you were going to say?
no, it's okay. I had a talent lucky strike, but I already spent a story point.
Aha.
Upgrade. Yep.
I can't use a lucky strike.
All right, so I'm spending one of my 2 GM story points, put us back at 2 on the player side,
Okay.
to do this 1 step ahead maneuver. And she is going to reach out with her claw and try to grab Darren.
And rip him in half.
Rip him a new one. Uh-oh.
So her claw is 4 proficiency dice. Brawn 4, Brawl 4. She has 2 difficulty dice. I already used my maneuvers for the turn. My 1 maneuver for the turn, and this does not allow me to do both a maneuver and a action. It just says a maneuver or an action. So I'm just going to not be able to aim it. So do you have any melee defense?
Nope.
Okay. So I've already
Point of
spent
spoken, that's
my
it.
story point to be able to do this.
Well, he wants to be able to maybe survive long enough to be back on the ship. So Darren spends a story point to upgrade.
Okay.
As maybe he hopes that maybe there's some piece of equipment that he'll drag the body of Chief underneath, making it more
right.
difficult to attack us.
Long and short of it, I ended up with 3 successes and 1 threat.
All right.
One of my yellow dice came up blank, and all my negative dice came up with only threat. So What would you... Well, the damage for this is going to be 11.
All right. Any pierce? No pierce? Okay. So 11 minus 3 for soak. So that's still 8 points of damage. Ouch.
Okay.
Out of 13, so he's still okay. But
So she just rakes her claw across his chest, but doesn't quite grab a hold of him.
no.
What would you like me to do with that one threat?
She nicks some piece of equipment next to her and gets a bit of a shock. So a point of strain.
Okay. All right, next player slot.
Yeah.
Role play that. Role play it, homie.
What I'm doing is I'm actually making emotions of blood squirting out of my chest.
Yeah.
So I am going to, let's see, my turn, I'm going to act as a human shield while I'm unconscious, and I will continue to act like a human shield while I'm unconscious.
All right, top of round 2.
Right.
She's going to go.
So she will
Rip me in half? Or
Pretty much.
keep me as a
she
shield?
will attempt to reach out and claw, grab a hold of Darren yet again.
Oh,
Yeah.
hey, at the end of the round, can I make a roll for my transporter officer that's up on the ship?
Well, it seems that transporting is still difficult.
Right,
In
because
this-
of the
in this-
tachyons and stuff.
Because the attack on emissions, and you still seem to be having some sort of technical difficulties here.
Well, you know what? At least you can't see the blood on my shirt. Because
Yeah.
my head.
So, Darren, that claw is coming right
Yeah.
back at you.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Went swiped by one side. Now it's coming back from the other direction.
All
This
right.
time reaching out a little further, trying to grab you. Hey,
Yeah,
Which, by the way, Tony, just to let you know, you cannot take more than 2 maneuvers during your turn. Outside of your turn, you could take another maneuver. So, yeah,
you go.
you're only
Right.
limited during your turn. So, go ahead.
Okay.
Keep going.
All right. So as an
That's a good thing
incidental,
to know.
Yep.
Daryl will soil his pants.
Darren? Daryl or Darren?
Darren.
Daryl's
Darren,
up on the
sorry.
ship.
Oh, Darren. Yeah, Daryl's the one rolling all the despair is trying to
Are you freaking
beam us
kidding me?
back up.
We have Lieutenant Daryl up there on the transporter duty.
Yes, exactly.
Double despair, Daryl.
Yeah,
You're
so
doomed.
my same dice, I'm going to spend my maneuver to aim. Gosh, she really, really wants to capture the entire away team.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we'll go with 2 additional strain to get that second boost die.
All
for
right.
8.
I mean, with
And
those,
Darren will spend the story
And
point to make it more difficult.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that story point will pretty much stay the same. It'll just flip both
Yeah.
directions because I was
That's
going to add a
it.
green die. And so
Excuse me.
here we go. Oh, dropped my dice. There we go. All right.
So
Get this out of the way.
what's the damage?
Rolling this. Oh, okay, 2 triumphs.
Oh, jeez. Oh, there goes Darren.
But I only had 1 net success.
That's all you need, though.
That's all it needs.
So that's 9 wounds.
Yeah.
As he gets poked in the chest.
That's
So-
still 6, so 14. So he's over his wound threshold.
Nice.
So about 3 days later, the 2 of them wake up about 100 yards from the crash site, and their
Mhm.
throats hurt.
Yeah.
And their throats hurt?
Yeah. Yeah. To me, that sounds like a Friday night. But anyway.
Oh, wow.
Or Saturday morning, depending on how well
Whoa.
it went.
Oh,
Come on now, what do you think she's going to do?
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was my Halloween advantageous threats for you guys. I had to have a xenomorph for Halloween.
Yeah. There you go.
That was great. That was
And
great.
GMs, encounter balance is important. no matter what Chris said earlier, it is important. I purposefully threw a combat power level 13 monster at some brand new characters. But I have a reason. Mm-hmm. You got good players. You can do a session 0 like this. You hand them a bunch of nobodies. You throw a tremendously powerful, evil, just mega monster at them. Big epic encounter. Rip them to shreds. Then let them make characters with a reason for vengeance.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's nice.
Revenge!
Which, by the way, the challenge rating for this, you have to add all of them up.
Yeah, so it's
13 combat. What was it total?
13 to it's 18.
18.
Yeah.
So 16 higher.
You told me to do my worst.
Yeah. I sure did. I texted you last night, and I said, yep. Do your worst. And you know what? You did not disappoint.
That's it. So mentally he said, challenge accepted.
So let's see. Let me see. So the CR for us, I'm looking at this appropriate challenge rating for this for 2 PCs. Let me see. We're going to need 1,001 experience points earned. That's 12. Mm-hmm. Maybe by then we'll have weapons that'll do more. So, yeah.
Maybe by then she'll have had enough encounters with enough away teams. She'll be worn down some and won't be so fresh.
Just to let you know, I would think
one of those exosuits.
Yep, I would think that looks like 250 earned XP for a CR15 would be appropriate for NPCs. That would be the appropriate level. That would be challenging against her. Because you would think it would add maybe 3 more, because there's more than 3 PCs. Probably pretty decent weapons. Can probably hit multiple.
Maybe an axe-wielding dragon slayer dwarf might be appropriate.
Or maybe an entire platoon of Marines.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. Oh, we may have to do... Challenge accepted. No.
Yeah.
All right. Well, are we ready?
That was the Xenomorph Queen in Exile.
That was great. At least I got to roll. I at least got to roll a couple times.
You did.
I did.
You never had to make a fear check.
So did I.
No.
Oh, you were too close to make a fear check.
I'm the chief fucking engineer, man. I don't have to make fear checks. Not when I'm being used as a human shield. For sure.
Twitching human shield. The twitching might come into play. You never know.
Hey, it might. It might.
Giving Darren a boost dice. I don't know.
That's right.
All right. So, folks, that's Advantageous Threats. We're going to head on over and wrap this up.
Yep.
Alrighty, well, hey, that's our show for the night, everybody. Well done on that Advantageous Threats there, Tony. That was incredibly hardly awesome.
Yeah.
So let's see. So next time in a couple weeks, Stefan has something very special for us. He is going to be running our next actual play with our friend Matthew Jones is going to be joining us. And you are going to be running us through some Johnny Quest.
Yes,
I should probably read a few. I should probably watch a few of those episodes. Kind of get a little, what do you call it? Remember that? Oh, man, I haven't watched that show in years.
Yeah.
I want to play Bandit. I just want to bark to the whole episode.
All right. Well, you're gonna have to make that special custom skill called shitting. Right?
No, I'm kidding. I don't want to play the dog.
That's good, Tony.
Well,
that's good.
He's going to be the group animal companion anyway. So
nice.
Nice. All right. So, hey, Stefan, do we have any listener questions or feedback?
Yes, we do actually have one little listener feedback from one of my fellow Quebecer residents, Michael Mikkelsen.
rolls right off your tongue so well.
Yeah.
I could never do it.
I practiced and I've been
Nice.
drinking too. All right, so let's get into his feedback. His letter that he wrote us, or his email. So he starts off, hello. Hope you are all well. Yes, we are, by the way. We came across this today. So he sent us a link from that we'll include in the show notes that talks about or hints at the next product that will be or might be coming out next year for Genesys. So specifically, it says scheduled to be launched on a Kickstarter in 2021. The books will be paired with a tie-in game components designed to delight long-term fans of both franchises.
And part of the URL says publish graphic novels based on Twilight Imperium and Android.
That's it. So that could be something, graphic novels based off of those intellectual properties, and they say they could be talking about Genesys stats and rules. If so, pretty much a soft announced the Twilight Imperium, which could be very interesting. I agree. It could be nice. Also, he says, a quick question. I almost never listen to live plays, but decided to play your Beyond Good and Evil episode. Thank you very much for listening to that one. And he loved it. Unfortunately, I couldn't be part of that one due to technical issues on my end, but it was fun to listen to as well.
Sweet.
So he says, you guys really have a feel for the system. I wish to know where you got the inspiration for the skill challenge. 12 successes before 5 fails. As the players get comfortable in the fight club. I really like this mechanic and want to use it in my future games. I feel like I should know where you drew it from, but I am drawing a complete blank. Did you make it yourselves? Take it easy, Michael Miklashin. So I did reply to him, but I think maybe Tony and maybe even Chris might have a reply to that.
Nope, neither of us replied because you gave the correct reply. Go ahead and read it, or paraphrase, or whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I don't have it underneath on my screen right now, but basically that I know Tony came up with it, but introduced it to me and used it in quite a few of his games.
Well, I heard about it first from another podcast, and then I've kind of talked about it, and it's gone around the Genesys community through the Discord server and through the various social medias. People have talked about using them, but eventually someone came out with a supplement that included it, and that was the Game Master's Eclectic Toolkit on Drive-Thru-RPG.
Nice.
Yeah.
And that is, pick that up. That explains the whole process to you. But in a nutshell, you want a certain number of successes before you get a certain number of failed checks. You do kind of a skill montage, as they like to call it, or in my case, it was a skill challenge, and try to narrate your way through it. You want some associated skills that are a little easier, and then any skill check can be made. Some are going to be harder, and you modify from there. And it's
you can
all
alternate
described
rules.
though in the Game Master's Eclectic Toolkit, which, Stefan, that's what you replied. I had it handy, so.
Yeah, okay, that's it. Yeah, I did have I sent him the link because it describes that as well as some other little tools that can be useful during the game, but that talks about it quite nicely. He has charts for that, some optional rules if you want to just mix it up, like alternating skills, not allowing characters to use the same skill two times in a row.
Correct.
And so forth. So,
but that's where it's at.
Yeah, fairly simple.
And I use them all the time.
They're great.
Yeah, I find them a great narrative tool to tell the story over a long encounter in a few short checks. I think my favorite one that I've done on an actual play is the one I did for the murder investigation on my Shadow of the Beanstalk game that I ran for the brewery for Chris and Daryl and Jamie.
That was great, dude.
That opening first episode where you guys did the murder investigation really kind of set the tone for the whole adventure, and that challenge and how it played out set that tone for the entire 6-episode adventure.
Yeah.
So.
Very nice.
Yep.
But, thanks for writing us again, Michael.
Yeah, and I hope that helped. And check out if other listeners want to find out about the skill challenges and other little rules, supplements, or ideas. Check out that Game Master's Eclectic Toolbox by the people at thestoryspanner.net, available on the Foundry. So you can come up with some good stuff.
Well, the rest of you want to talk to us? You got a question like that, or you just want to berate me for my idiocy, or say hi to Stefan or Chris? You reach out to us at findingthenarrativepodcast@gmail.com, like Michael did. You can talk to Stefan and I alone on Facebook at Finding the Narrative. All three of us are on Finding the Narrative's MeWe page and the chat over there. We generally all will answer that pretty quickly within a few hours. Stefan has been hovering over the Twitter feed like a hawk at FTN_Genesys.
Caw.
Nevermore. No. Sorry, that's
okay. Maybe like a crow. And you can recommend us to others at Finding the Narrative Podcast, Podbean, iTunes, YouTube, Google Play, Spotify, etc., etc., etc. So, yeah, this is Tony Fanning saying, let's tell a story and spend a story point.
And this is Stefan saying, game over, man. Dare to ask for the boost dice, but it's still a game over.
Well, you really need to remember the rule of cool if you're being used as a human shield by the exile herself. But you know what? Just have fun doing it while your teammate is trying to get you back up onto the ship. I don't know what to say. Except my throat hurts.
We're just we're living incubators right now. So.
Exactly. Yes, we are. I have a feeling there might be another threat. Advantageous threat might be coming up here soon again.
Yep.
Follow on. All right.
So
well, good night, everybody.
Finding the Narrative, a Genesys RPG podcast, is not affiliated with or endorsed by any companies mentioned on this show. Any of the products mentioned on our show or appear on our website are the property and copyright of their respected owners. All items are used under fair use and educational and review purposes. All other items are the intellectual property of Finding the Narrative, a Genesys RPG podcast. Copyright 2020, all rights reserved.